Moguls, the original TV Land series about TV's most powerful producers. Next, watch TV Land Moguls of the 70s, Part 2, Gary Marshall and Aaron Spelling.
He has his finger on the pulse of America.
Then stay tuned and see shows the Moguls made.
What are you doing?
Swallowing my pride.
Oh, what are you doing?
TV Land Moguls of the 70s, Part 2. Next on TV Land. And now, an original TV Land presentation.
Gary's great quote was, "We're not doing Shakespeare." I kind of got that.
We knew from the beginning that thing was going to be a winner, and it was.
Hello, boys.
You have a magical cast. You have great timing. You have Dallas. You have the magic.
Welcome to TV Land Moguls. I'm Merv Griffin. Television moguls are the men and women with an uncanny knack for giving viewers exactly what they want, again and again, cranking out hit after hit. And of all the moguls who've created hit TV shows, the most prolific of all is Aaron Spelling, at least according to the Guinness Book of World Records. Aaron was in elementary school when he made a very simple observation. Men like to watch nearly naked women, especially if they're wrestling with one another. Well, years later, Aaron and his partner, Leonard Goldberg, turned that formula into a gold mine. This episode of TV Land Moguls focuses on the producers who turned out winners in the late 70s, and no one was better at it than the team of Spelling and Goldberg.
To myself, I had said, this is going to be Spelling Goldberg, a new company. I think they're going to be very successful based upon what Aaron has done before and Leonard has done before. Why not get in on the first floor of an elevator that's going to go up and ride it to the top?
We had a lot of fun together, a lot of fun.
It was a great time in our lives, never to be duplicated again.
It was 1972 when Aaron Spelling and Leonard Goldberg formed a partnership. And over the course of the decade, they changed the face of television.
The two of them together were the most formidable pairing you could imagine. Leonard brought the sensibilities of a brilliant executive, and Aaron brought the sensibilities of a brilliant filmmaker. And together they were unstoppable.
Spelling had been partners with Danny Thomas when he struck out on his own in 1968 to produce The Mod Squad for ABC. Goldberg was a programming executive there when the two first met. He went on to produce the legendary TV movie Brian's Song as head of production for Columbia Pictures Television.
When my term was up with Columbia, we had talked about going into business together, and we did.
They had an exclusive deal at the struggling ABC network.
ABC being the third network, we couldn't attract the older viewers from CBS or NBC. We had to go after the young viewers, the kids, the teenagers, the young adults whose habits hadn't been formed yet. We could maybe attract them. That's who we went after.
Not much peace around, just an occasional break in the war.
Capitalizing on the popularity of cop shows, Spelling Goldberg Productions made its debut with The Rookies.
The first time I met Aaron Spelling and Lynn Goldberg, I was doing another pilot on the 20th Century Fox lot with Robert Foxworth. And we were leaving our soundstage, and I saw a sign that said The Rookies. And I looked at the sign and just got this head off of it and thought, The Rookies. That sounds like it's going to be successful.
Spelling and Goldberg's next success was the paramilitary cop drama SWAT. It grew out of an episode of The Rookies and featured another young, attractive cast.
And then we did Starsky and Hutch.
You guys didn't even read me my rights.
Now, Milne. Read him his rights.
Yeah, read me my rights.
Oh, shut up.
We wanted to do really irreverent guys. This time they'd be out of uniform, they'd dress so cool, and they would break all the rules.
Spelling and Goldberg were on a tear. They had 3 hit shows right off the bat. And their 4th would be the biggest yet.
We had a breakfast with Barry Diller and Michael Eisner, who were running ABC nighttime programming, to talk about new shows. And we said, we have an idea.
The idea for the new series revolved around 3 beautiful women working as private eyes.
And Barry and Michael looked at each other and said, why don't we order breakfast? It's a terrible idea. We're not going to do that.
Spelling and Goldberg were persistent and came back later with a script. But the pitch still didn't go well until...
Lynn said, well, you haven't heard about our main title. And he said, Aaron, tell him our main title. I almost choked. I didn't know we had a main title. And we both kind of ad-libbed that once upon a time there were 3 beautiful girls who went to the police academy. They graduated with honors and they were given fantastic jobs as police. One checked the parking meter, one was a secretary, one walked kids across the street. A voice said, I took them away from all that, and now they work for me.
My name is Charlie.
And that's how it happened. It became Charlie's Angels.
And I mean, we knew from the beginning that thing was going to be a winner, and it was.
And of course, our competitors, when it became a big hit, said, well, it's just Jiggle Television. We could do that too, to which we replied, take your best shot. They never succeeded.
And what denomination are you, little lady?
35, 24, 35, brother.
But there was controversy about the way the show presented its female stars. At a time when women were marching in the streets for equality, Charlie's Angels was criticized by some as anti-feminist. But the creators of the show saw its appeal as an opportunity to open new doors to women.
We always got the bad guy. We were smarter than all men. You know, we could do anything from a karate chop to fly an airplane. We could do it all. We empowered women.
It was entertainment, and it's something that Aaron Spelling and Len Goldberg did very well at that time. They knew what entertained.
And while Charlie's Angels never won the favor of critics, Spelling and Goldberg would earn their share of respect with a dramatic series about an ordinary middle-class family. It was inspired by Leonard Goldberg's boyhood memory of his father losing his job and feeling he had no future.
Something's wrong, isn't it?
That was such an emotional experience. And I bet every family has thousands of emotional experiences. We came up with the idea of family. We couldn't get it made as a pilot, though. They said it's too good for television.
In fact, ABC refused to make the pilot until Mike Nichols signed on as producer and director.
Annie, I'll pick you up at 3.
Got it.
Any other rides to school?
No, thanks. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It was just small, everyday occurrences in people's lives. What happened, you know, when someone went to the doctor? What happened when your best friend and you had a fight?
I don't believe this.
I told you it doesn't matter. I understand completely.
You understand. Buddy Lawrence, as the dumbest math student in the whole class, you've certainly got some nerve.
The show had a healthy 5-year run, and Spelling and Goldberg had the satisfaction of turning out a critically acclaimed, award-winning series.
Still to come.
The plan.
Fantasy and fun on the high seas.
Everybody's asked me through the years, don't you think it would be a nice idea to do a revival, you know, of the Dick Van Dyke Show?
It was born at the TV Land Awards.
And the other day I sat down at my computer, yes, I got a computer, and I started to tickle away, and I started to write. Anyway, I'm doing that. Do I have a commitment for you that if it's good, you'll do it?
He did it, and they did it. Watch the Dick Van Dyke Show Revisited Tuesday, May 18th here on TV. Learn what made the Moguls. See what tonight's Moguls made. Shows by Gary Marshall and Aaron Spelling.
You're the captain. Yes, I am.
Tonight, after TV Land Moguls, the 70s. Right here on TV Land.
But the mid-1970s, Aaron Spelling and Leonard Goldberg were the prime movers behind one of the most prolific and profitable production companies in the history of television. They had so many hours of programming on ABC that some called the network the Aaron Broadcasting Company.
He was such an important part of the success of our company. He yielded so much profitability.
So much profit that in the late 1980s, Spelling would build a modern-day palace that any fairy tale king would envy. The 56,000 square foot mansion is the largest private residence in Los Angeles. It might be said that Aaron Spelling's world was built on fantasy, his own and those he brought to television.
He created fantasies for people to escape with. It was a very important and healthy antidote for the tired, overworked, often underappreciated American.
I'm Julie McCoy, your cruise director. Welcome aboard.
Starting with The Love Boat in 1979, Spelling took millions of fans on a romantic and glamorous cruise every Saturday night. The show came to him from another producer, Douglas Kramer. It had failed to sell in previous pilot presentations, but Spelling loved the idea.
I went crazy, and I said, I think we could do something that hasn't been done. And I said, Doug, let's get bigger stars. Let's get big guest stars on Love Boat.
If we don't get along on land, what makes you think we're going to get along at sea? Hey, come on.
And we did.
The Love Boat offered a unique incentive for its guest stars, and many came for less than their going rate.
The big perk was a free trip, and we went everywhere. We went all over the world.
I'm in China.
What's better than bringing your wife and children to a cruise that's free and get paid for acting?
This is spectacular.
Pretty good deal.
As the ship's doctor, I know how all this sunshine can dehydrate a person, so I'm prescribing
A dose of champagne. I think you took that one away from its mother too soon.
And the network hit the jackpot with this frothy, glamorous, sexy, romantic bonbon about loves lost and found on the high seas.
When the Love Boat went on, it went through the roof. People just loved that show. The ones that couldn't afford to travel, traveled vicariously. And so Aaron Spelling had a mega hit.
But again, Spelling's work was dismissed by critics.
They called it mindless television, but they could call it anything they want. It was very, very successful. It's still in 95 countries. Whenever you see a boat, people say, oh, that's the Love Boat, that's the Love Boat.
With its appealing crew and entertaining storylines, the Love Boat cruised on for 10 years.
The princess proudly presents the great Briar.
Someone who later regretted not getting on board was Leonard Goldberg. Spelling's partner and friend decided to take a pass on this series.
One of the many mistakes I've made in my life, they had invited me to participate with them, but at the time I declined. Foolishly, I might add. A fact my wife reminds me of every time I say to her, well, no, you really can't buy that painting. And she said, if you had said yes to the Love Boat, we could have.
But Goldberg did not miss the boat for Fantasy Island in 1978. He and Spelling had another huge hit.
Smiles, everyone, smile! They bought it because they said, gee, Aaron, this is really different. I was scared to death that they would say, oh, this is so different, nobody will ever watch it.
They put it on Saturday night right behind Love Boat. Take the Love Boat to Fantasy Island. And that block just became a powerhouse.
The 1-2 programming punch had a fantasy for everyone.
Mr. Hunter wants to know what it feels like to be Hemingway or Steinbeck.
Or Harold Robbins.
You could go to the moon if you wanted to. In Fantasy Island, you could do anything. Whereas in Love Boat, it were stories that were, you know, normal for normal people in normal circumstances. So the two of them really complemented each other.
My dear guests, I am Mr. Rourke, your host. Welcome to Fantasy Island.
After 7 years, Fantasy Island bid goodbye to its time slot. The Spelling and Goldberg Odyssey officially ended in 1979. They put one last series on the air, the popular romantic mystery Heart to Heart with Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers. The company sold its shows to Columbia for an undisclosed amount. But the worth of these programs may well be incalculable.
I'm not complaining. We did fine. Aaron and I did fine, but we undervalued them considerably. Nobody foresaw when we sold in 1981 or 82 the emergence of cable television and 100 channels desperate for product.
In the last 2 decades, Leonard Goldberg has gone on to produce successful and well-received movies for television and theatrical films, including the box office smash big screen version of Charlie's Angels. Aaron Spelling continues to create shows that pull in a young audience.
I just love doing it. I can't tell you. I just love coming here and working.
But it may well be the shows that bore the Spelling-Goldberg imprint in the 1970s that will be the work for which these two TV moguls will be most remembered.
Well, we were fortunate in that a whole generation grew up to a certain extent on our shows, and they live on forever, because when you're growing up and something emotionally touches you, it stays with you forever. You know, it really does.
Next on TV Land Moguls, full-size families and famous feuds.
Just because you're not human, that doesn't mean you can't be a movie star. There have been a lot of big animal stars.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
You hear that, Arnold? You're going to Hollywood.
How's it going, Ed? I'm quitting.
Remember the picture the star is born? There it is.
Take me.
By the 1970s, television was a billion-dollar industry driven by advertising revenue. One of the most successful producers of the decade, the man who created the primetime soap opera, was former advertising executive Lee Rich.
I think Lee, coming from that world of advertising, knew very well, had well-honed instincts about what the public wanted to see and hear.
And when it came to television programming, Lee Rich had perfect aim.
One of the most determinative things in my career has been who I worked with. I worked with people who kept reminding me of what it was about, which was the acting.
Lee Rich produced big shows that attracted some of the best talent in the country.
Conceiving a show, developing a show, getting it on the air, making it a hit, and keeping it on the air over a long period of time. That's a big, big job, and it requires a big person. And Lee was that.
Lee Rich first tuned in to the business of television in the 1950s as an account executive at a top ad agency. At that time, TV programming was controlled by powerful sponsors. Rich oversaw sponsorship of daytime soap operas on behalf of major clients like Procter & Gamble.
As the world turns. Brought to you today by Ivory Soap, 99 and 44, 100% pure. It floats.
He also put advertisers together with some of the most popular and highly regarded producers of primetime shows.
The relationship between them and the advertiser was tremendous. Danny Thomas and General Foods were so close. And on the Dick Van Dyke Show, Sheldon Leonard and Procter & Gamble were so close. So that anything that came out of their genius, we were there hoping to get it.
In 1969, Rich jumped into television himself. He founded a production company called Lorimar with financier Merv Adelson. Rich bought the rights to a book called The Homecoming by Earl Hamner. He then turned this story about a large family during the Great Depression into a movie for CBS.
I think Lee was a natural-born salesman, and whether I knew it or not, that was a very lucky thing for me to become associated with him. He not only had some creative judgment, but he also could tell what would sell. And that is as creative as any other gift in television.
The Homecoming was a huge success, and CBS was interested in making it a series. But the network wanted a star. Rich and Hamner went after Henry Fonda and screened The Homecoming for him.
He looked at it after it was over and he said, "What do you want me for?" He said, "The kid is the star. The kid is the star."
The kid, Richard Thomas, agreed to do the series, but the network still wasn't convinced that such a low-key drama could survive stiff competition from sitcoms and cop shows. Then William Paley, the chairman of CBS, saw the pilot and loved it.
He just pulled it right out and said, we're going to do that. This is important. This has value. You know, we make a lot of money and we do a lot of entertainment and we benefit ourselves, and now we're going to put something back in the bucket.
The series, now titled The Waltons, premiered in 34th place in 1972, but the show slowly began to find a home with viewers.
There was a quality to the show that made people say to themselves, this is how I remember growing up, or this is how I wish it had been.
Good night, Mama.
Good night, Ben. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Aaron.
Good night, Jim Bob.
The faith that Lee Rich had in the Waltons from the beginning was vindicated.
Good night, Grandpa.
By the end of the first season, we were at #1, and then we stayed there for a long time.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, John Boy.
Good night, everybody. I love you.
The Waltons won raves from the critics and every award for excellence.
I don't know whether I'll ever get back here again, so forget speech A, B, and C. I'd like to thank the Academy on behalf of the Walt.
In 1977, Lee Rich discovered another large family in a book called 8 is Enough.
I didn't read it. I read the blurb on the jacket, and I said, this is a television series.
ABC gave it a green light almost immediately. But even though Rich seemed to have almost perfect judgment, there were some circumstances beyond his control. Actress Diana Hyland, who played mother to Dick Van Patten's children, died tragically from cancer at the end of the first season. Betty Buckley stepped in to take over, but the show was plagued with problems that couldn't be remedied.
We finally canceled the series on our own, in spite of the fact that the series was doing very well. We just couldn't take care of those kids. They never showed up on time. They had all kinds of problems. And I believe it was because it all went to their heads. And we finally couldn't take it anymore. And we told ABC we didn't want to do the series anymore. So after 5 years, we canceled it.
Rich would always be protective of his company and its reputation. Lorimar was now a brand name that stood for quality television, and Rich was on his way to becoming a major force in the television industry. For his next project, he drew inspiration from his early career.
I said, you know, soap operas work. I said, why can't we do one at night? Make it sexier, make it richer. And they said, gee, that's a great idea. And that's how Dallas got on the air.
The show featured the oil-rich Ewing family, and the cast was led by a character everyone loved to hate, J.R. Ewing, played by Larry Hagman.
Well, other than having an affair with his wife's sister and putting his wife in a mental institution, I don't know how you could get much worse than that, tell you the truth.
With its soap opera mix of over-the-top characters and melodramatic storylines, Dallas took off like a rocket.
It was the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowls, it was oil, it was the embargo of '77, and plus just the bigness of America and Texas and all of that stuff. We were just a perfect marriage of time and product.
Occasionally you have a magical cast. You have great timing as far as people wanting a particular show at that particular time. And I think you put all that together and you have Dallas. You have the magic.
But some critics found this soap opera not ready for prime time.
You know, a lot of people made fun of Dallas as to what it was. I couldn't give a damn. I really couldn't, as long as the public enjoyed it. And that was what we were all about.
Yeah, hello, boys.
What's happening?
And the public did enjoy Big D in a big way. Dallas attracted one of the largest television audiences of all time when J.R. Ewing, the show's anti-hero, was shot on March 21st of 1980. The cliffhanger started an international frenzy. Everyone was asking, who shot J.R.?
Welcome to the rodeo, ladies and gentlemen. We are now having a contest. You put your name and who you think shot JR on the back of this card, and you could win a raffle.
That was a fun time. I mean, with the press trying to get the scripts, and with the British people betting on who was JR, and people calling me from all over saying, I'll give you this if you tell me this, you know, all over. My family didn't know.
The answer remained a closely guarded secret until the following season. The episode that revealed the shooter had an audience of almost 42 million viewers and an astounding 76 share.
You went to the office that night with JR's gun. It was you, Kristen, who shot JR.
This episode of Dallas is still the second highest rated show ever broadcast. The magic of Dallas made Lee Rich, well, even richer. He led a life that even the Ewings might envy, with an apartment on New York's Fifth Avenue, a home in one of the toniest neighborhoods in Los Angeles, and a beach house in Malibu. His keen eye for good product had paid off handsomely. But Rich also acknowledged that his success had been the result of spectacular collaborations. Dallas was the invention of writer David Jacobs, who went on to create the middle-class potboiler Knots Landing.
It was so different from Dallas. It was homier. It was, I think people could identify more with Knots Landing than they could with Dallas.
As the ultimate executive producer, Rich was personally involved in the selection of the show's king-size cast, including newcomers like Alec Baldwin.
To be given a job on a TV series that was already a hit show and you don't have to carry that on your back, they're inviting you on to into the party car already. Was a good thing. That was a really, really great thing.
Get away from me, Daddy! Get away or I'll call the police! Jenny!
Knots Landing became a fixture on CBS for 14 years. It is the second longest running show in television history. Lee Rich gave much credit for his success to the army of creative talent behind every Lorimar production.
I was the one who sold it, but they produced it. And I was there to protect them and to give them what they wanted. And that was a great joy for me.
In 1976, Rich left Lorimar after a 17-year run to become chairman and CEO of MGM United Artists. In 1989, Lorimar's library of blockbusters was sold to Warner Communications for an astonishing $1.2 billion. Lee Rich had achieved his goals in turning his creative hunches into mass entertainment and won the respect and admiration of his colleagues.
We always had a warm relationship, and I suspect that almost anyone who knew Lee had some affection for him.
Two words come to mind with Lee Rich: classy and generous. And you can't always say that about a producer, but that's truly what comes to my mind.
Coming up on TV Land Moguls, the man who gave us Happy Days.
Nanu! Nanu!
And a visit from Mork from Ork.
After you learn what made the Moguls, see what tonight's Moguls made. Shows by Gary Marshall and Aaron Spelling.
You're the captain.
Yes, I am.
Tonight, after TV Land Moguls, the 70s, right here on TV.
One of the most popular shows of the 1970s actually had its genesis back in the 50s. A New York kid named Gary Marshall was on a double date when the two girls got into a brawl in the middle of dinner. Years later, while working on Happy Days, Gary remembered that night and wrote a scene in which Richie and the Fonz went out with a couple of girls named Laverne and Shirley. It was typical of Gary Marshall, who created some of the most popular comedies of the 70s, when everything he touched turned to gold.
By the late 1970s, Gary Marshall was the undisputed king of television comedy. In the week January 28, 1979, The top 3 shows on the air were his. Laverne and Shirley was #1. Happy Days was second.
Cunningham, my office.
And Mork and Mindy was in 3rd place.
Most things that he had that worked were just because they had a great sense of fun about them. And he knew that. He knew that, you know, the formulas don't work. It's finding that kind of, you know, characters that people relate to. And with us, he just let us go, which was the first time I'd ever had someone that said, you know, open field running. Saw daylight and went, go for it.
And with that simple game plan, Gary Marshall scored over and over. He'd come a long way from his boyhood in the Bronx, where he often played in a band that accompanied his sister Penny's dance recitals.
My mother ran a dancing school in the basement of our building in the Bronx, which we were always entertaining. So I was always performing, but as a tap dancer, precision tap dancer.
Gary's real family name was Marciarelli, but his father had changed it to Marshall, thinking the family would have more opportunity with a more American-sounding name. The kids were not supposed to know about their Italian heritage.
Except my father had marinara sauce on everything, and those hot peppers, you know, and the wine and the oil and vinegar dressing every night.
For years I thought he was Jewish, and they're not, you know. They're Italian, but they could be Italian Jewish.
Gary left New York in his teens to go to Northwestern University, but quickly proved you can take the boy out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of the boy.
My father sent us all to out-of-town college to lose our accents. Didn't work.
Marshall served in the Korean War, and after he was discharged from the Army, he landed in Hollywood. By the mid-1950s, he had established himself as a sought-after comedy writer, turning out scripts for The Danny Thomas Show, The Dick Van Dyke Show, and The Lucille Ball Show. In 1966, Marshall and his writing partner, Jerry Belson, came up with an idea for a new sitcom called Hey Landlord. It was a huge flop. Marshall was told that most viewers couldn't relate to a show set in the Bronx.
So that's when I started saying, maybe I should set it in other places other than where I came from, the Bronx. The Bronx, the home of sitcom. Nobody ever said that line.
But in 1970, Marshall again had New York as a backdrop when he got his first shot at running his own show. Neil Simon's The Odd Couple was a huge success as a Broadway play and a hit film starring Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. ABC wanted Marshall to turn it into a TV series. The casting would be critical.
It's all about casting. If you don't have the casting, you can write till you're blue in the face. It doesn't matter. So we said, well, let's cast it. So they immediately said, we would like for The Odd Couple, Dean Martin and Mickey Rooney.
Marshall felt the combination wasn't right and wanted to keep looking. Then someone suggested Tony Randall.
I was playing The Odd Couple in Chicago, and there was Gary Marshall in my dressing room. I knew nothing of him, but I do remember my agent telling me that he was a brilliant young writer.
Randall liked the script that Marshall and his partner Jerry Belson had written, and Felix Unger, the finicky fuss budget, was in place. Marshall then brought on Jack Klugman, who he'd seen on Broadway in the musical Gypsy, to play Oscar Madison, the sports-writing slob. Penny Marshall won the role of Oscar's secretary, Myrna Turner, and it wasn't long before the rest of the family was in the act.
One episode, my sister Ronnie and I both appeared as relatives of Myrna Turner.
Oh, you've never met my family?
No.
This is my sister, Verna Turner, and my brother, Werner Turner.
How do you do?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Sounds like stereo.
Nepotism was, in fact, an important part of Marshall's management style. His father, Tony, was one of the producers overseeing the budget for the show.
He looked like the Godfather. Big, handsome man, very handsome. Anything you asked him, he'd say, Gary knows all about that. He knew how to play his part.
Gary Marshall was a workaholic. He produced, directed, and wrote many of the episodes of The Odd Couple. He was a perfectionist in all of these roles, but still, he had his share of disagreements with the cast. Tony Randall once walked off the set when one scene wouldn't work after hours of rehearsal and rewriting.
I said, oh, why don't you fill it with a bunch of midgets, for God's sake? And I went home. Next day when I came to work, the set was full of midgets.
How do you do? I'm Felix Unger.
I'm Brian Albertson. You must be the photographer.
Yes.
Marshall had a flair for coming up with creative solutions.
He knew how to listen. He didn't come up with quick answers. That's not his way. He goes like this. Uh-huh, uh-huh. And if he's angry, he laughs. Yeah. That means he could kill.
To run a show, you can't be too popular. That's the thing, because you make a lot of decisions that make people unhappy. You want to be popular, you run craft service. You give out the food, they love the guy who gives out the food. If you say, gee, I want to be loved, don't go into producing, go into craft service, give them the food.
In spite of all Marshall's efforts to churn out a show that would eventually become a classic, ratings for The Odd Couple were poor. Even with excellent scripts, winning performances, and good reviews, the show's survival was in doubt each season. And that wasn't all.
The network claimed it wasn't more popular because it was two men living alone. They thought they were homosexuals. In those days, you couldn't have gays on. Now you can't do a show without.
After 5 seasons, The Odd Couple took its final bow. But Marshall had found a home at Paramount, and even before The Odd Couple went off the air, he'd come up with a new idea for a series. He wanted to do a comedy that would appeal to the whole family. He also believed that setting this show, called Happy Days, in the Midwest of the 1950s would give it unlimited value.
We were trying to figure out something that helped the reruns, because we saw reruns were the future of the business. We felt if we did a show that was nostalgic and already old, that when it reran, it would look the same. Happy Days in 1975 and Happy Days in 2003 is the same look.
Marshall's instinct proved accurate. By the end of its first season, Happy Days was the most popular show on television. The show's characters were now cultural icons and spawned a cottage industry of collectibles. But the network originally objected to Marshall's most memorable character, the Fonz. They thought his signature black leather jacket made him look like a criminal.
So Gary Marshall made a deal, I think, with Michael Eisner, who ran ABC at that time. The Fonz will only wear leather when he is in a scene with his motorcycle. I never did a scene again without the motorcycle. It was in my living room. It was in the Cunningham living room. It was in Arnold's. It was in my bedroom. It was everywhere.
As the show settled in for what would be a 10-year run, Marshall made sure there was plenty to keep his big TV family occupied. He got everyone involved in his passion for basketball and softball when they weren't on the set.
The family that plays together stays together.
He insisted on a basketball court on Paramount so that he could keep Happy Days was a younger cast, and he didn't want him to get into drugs, so he had him play ball.
Marshall also knew how to play the network game. He made a deal with ABC for a huge share of future profits, and reruns of Happy Days made him a fortune. The show has been airing around the world for almost 30 years. Happy Days was not just a gold mine for Gary Marshall. It turned out to be fertile ground for new shows. 2 working-class girls from Milwaukee and an alien from outer space were about to turn Gary Marshall into a major TV mogul.
Stay tuned to TV Land Moguls and Robin Williams as Mork from Ork.
Throughout the 1970s, Gary Marshall seemed to know exactly where America's funny bone was. Someone once said, if he hiccups, someone will turn it into a series. But with all of his success, Marshall was still a down-to-earth guy who looked and acted like any member of the crew.
Who's that guy? I don't know. That guy over there, what's he doing? He's the electrician. You know, he doesn't come across like, I'm so excited. Let's do this thing. His laid-back manner is what I think makes it all work for all the shows he had.
Marshall's greatest pleasures were simple: a wife and 3 kids he adored and a job he loved. He never forgot his humble roots. he found inspiration in them.
I go to washing machine places because that's where the regular people go. If you go to the dry cleaners, you're too rich for me already. Where's the washing machine crowd? That's my crowd.
In 1976, Gary brought his crowd to television with a show about two young women who worked in a Milwaukee brewery. Laverne and Shirley, starring Cindy Williams and Gary's sister, Penny, instantly touched a chord with the viewing public.
Everything we did was try to make the rent, try to get any place, try to better our lives, and I think a lot of people identified with that.
The whole country seemed to embrace Laverne and Shirley. The show blew away the competition in its time slot and made ABC the #1 network.
I think Laverne and Shirley was a shock to everybody because it was really the first sitcom that debuted #1 in the ratings.
Unlike other sitcoms, Laverne and Shirley was not just about one-liners. Both Cindy Williams and Penny Marshall excelled at physical comedy. It was a skill Gary learned from the master.
Everything I ever taught Penny, I learned from Lucy. I did 3 years on Lucille Ball, and she taught me all the moves of physical comedy, and I tried to teach Penny and Cindy. So there is a passing on of the material.
Marshall was generous in sharing his knowledge with everyone he hired and encouraged them to develop their own creative gifts on his shows.
You could write, you could direct, you could do whatever you want over the course of the years, and everyone did.
Marshall was also always open to suggestion. When his son, who'd just seen Star Wars, asked if there could be an alien on Happy Days, Gary liked the idea. Then his casting director, his sister Ronnie, came up with a candidate, a young actor and stand-up comic named Robin Williams.
I remember Gary's great quote was, "We're not doing Shakespeare." I kind of got that.
When Mork landed on the set of Happy Days, nothing was ever the same. The reaction to Robin Williams was explosive.
Uncle!
Yeah.
Would you like to try for the next plateau?
Anything you say, Jack.
But although ABC wanted another Gary Marshall series, some executives had their doubts about Robin Williams. There was concern that Williams' humor might be too raunchy for prime time.
They finally had to hire a censor who spoke Spanish and Yiddish to pick up some of the things I was throwing in. But, you know, he was just happy that it was working. And he's, you know, I guess his policy is if it's working, don't mess with it.
The door! It's breaking, the door! Mindy, run for your life! The emotions are coming!
I guess it, you know, took off because it was so freeform. It wasn't like a regular television show because I would just go off.
Williams was new to television, and his improvisational style defied planned direction. Marshall had to be innovative.
Robin would stand in the wrong place. We couldn't get a shot. So instead of yelling at him, I just got another camera. And I said, here, this camera, follow Robin. Wherever he goes, follow him. Because I don't want to say confine yourself. And it worked.
Mork and Mindy was the #1 show on the air by the end of its first season.
Nanu! Nanu!
Mork mania swept the country, and Nanu Nanu became a familiar form of greeting. Then the network decided to change its time slot from Thursday to Sunday to compete with Archie Bunker's Place. Mork's ratings took a dive. The show was eventually returned to its original spot on Thursday and survived 4 more seasons in spite of network tinkering.
And when they finally canceled the show, we never found out. We read about it in the trades, which is kind of like reading your own obituary. But that's all right.
In the end, Gary Marshall made a lot of people laugh, and his work has stood the test of time. Today, he runs all of his business out of his medieval-looking headquarters, the Falcon Theater. He calls it the house that Happy Days built. He presents a variety of plays there, often featuring actors from his 70s TV series. And Marshall, now a noted feature film director himself, can take great satisfaction in the success of the remarkable talent he put on the path to superstardom.
People come up and try, you know, you on that show, what was that show called? What was it, Mark and Gandhi? What was that show? Duty, Duty, Zibby, Zibby, Flabby Dama? What's that show you did, Pork and Sandy? What was that thing? It's still in people's memory banks, and people saying they used to wait for the show on Thursday nights because it was just free form. I've been pretty much all over for the last 25 years. It hasn't gone away, but it paid for the ranch. Thank you, Gary. We'll still have that up there. I'll send you some wine. And I had a great time.
Gary Marshall was at his alma mater recently to talk with the students. Sounding like a football coach, he told them the single most important thing about being a consistently successful television producer is desire. Whoever has the most passion, he said, wins. And no one brings more passion to his work than Gary Marshall. Next time on TV Land Moguls, the roaring 80s, a Hollywood veteran was in the White House. Shows like Hill Street Blues and The A-Team were on the tube. The producers who gave us reality TV 80s style when TV Land Moguls continues. I'm Merv Griffin, and thanks for being with us.
TV Land Moguls, the original TV Land series about TV's most powerful producers. Next time, watch TV Land Moguls of the 80s.
The way we develop shows is that we kind of look at what's not on television and what ought to be.
Carsey Werner, Stephen J. Cannell, and Stephen Bochco. Then stay tuned and see shows the Moguls made.
Well, all you have to do is go...
TV Land Moguls, the 80s, Wednesday. TV's most powerful producers. Next, watch TV Land Moguls of the 80s.
The way we develop shows is that we kind of look at what's not on television and what ought to be.
Carsey Werner, Stephen J. Cannell, and Stephen Bochco. Then stay tuned and see shows the Moguls made.
Well, all you have to do is go...
TV Land Moguls, the 80s. Next on TV Land. And now, an original TV Land presentation.
Drop him, or you dead!
Steve Cannell had his finger on that at the time as well, if not better than anybody.
Do you understand?
And when you get a Stephen Bochco role, that can't be anything better for an actor.
Bill Cosby!
Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner helped invent modern comedy.
Do these glasses make me look stupid? They don't write them like that anymore. They just don't.
Welcome to TV Land Moguls. I'm Merv Griffin. Our series looks at men and women who made fortunes creating one hit show after another. In the process, some of them actually redefined television itself, such as the Moguls of the 80s. That's when primetime got a new look, created by a new breed of producers. With programs like Hill Street Blues and The A-Team, Stephen Bochco and Stephen J. Cannell dominated drama, and Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner reigned as the queen and king of comedy. And this television revolution occurred as one entertainment veteran was trying to revolutionize government.
The 1980s brought America a new president.
I, Ronald Reagan.
With new optimism for its future. A country ready to move past Vietnam and determined to command more respect. No action-adventure show on television mirrored that mentality more than The A-Team.
Drop him, or you dead! Who are these people?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present The A-Team.
It gave NBC a top 10 hit, created a cult hero in Mr. T, and made this man a television titan. He is primetime's most prolific writer-producer, Stephen J. Cannell. Cops, crime, and car chases had long been a staple on network TV. In the 1980s, Cannell made them an art form. His quirky, quick-witted characters struck a chord with an 80s audience seeking action with attitude.
Works for me.
Stephen J. Cannell, who would one day earn enough money to indulge himself in true Mogul style, was the son of a self-made millionaire. Yet as a kid, his ambitions were more humble. Cannell just wanted to be a writer. Still, he had to overcome one obstacle most budding writers did not. Cannell had severe dyslexia and flunked 3 times before he got out of high school. It was a college writing instructor who saw talent behind the typos.
He actually looked past my misspellings and all my bad handwriting and said, hey, I have a gift and that I should never give up this craft of writing. And I started writing every day from that point forward.
Cannell developed a rigorous routine, writing several hours a day, 7 days a week. His first big break came at Universal, working for Jack Webb, the man who brought a new form of police drama to television.
Cannell, he had no writing credits, but he was a good writer, and I knew it. He came over and did one, and it was fine. And I said, do another, and that was fine, and the third was fine. And I then went into Jack, and I said, Jack, I've found my story editor. And Jack said, you damn well better be right. I was right.
And before long, Cannell was writing, creating, and producing his own shows at Universal. One in particular brought an American icon back to prime time.
The magic of the Rockford Files is that you occasionally in your career catch lightning in a bottle.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
Everything came together right.
And particularly the writing. If you haven't got writing, you haven't got anything. And Steve furnished that. I think we had as many good scripts, really good scripts, as any series ever had.
The Rockford Files was a 6-year hit for NBC. It won Cannell an Emmy and showcased what would become his signature style. A lead character who was an outsider, but likable, human, and humorous.
I decided that the private detective would be this complete pragmatist. He would be me if I were a private detective. And every time he was threatened by the heavies, and some guy says, you know, if we ever see you again, you're going to fertilize an orange grove, I would say, you're never going to see me again. I'm out of here, man. I'm smoke. You know, I'm gone.
And I got beat up so many times, but they were good. They always let me come out at the end and win one fight.
His success with Rockford gave Cannell the courage to do what every would-be mogul must. He rolled the dice. Cannell left Universal to start his own production shop, a huge financial gamble.
I decided that I was going to bear 100% of the financial risk of the shows, and by the same token, get 100% of the reward if they were successful.
But his first shows were not. 1980's 10-Speed and Brown Shoe, with Jeff Goldblum and Ben Vereen as an unlikely pair of private eyes, got good reviews and an Emmy nomination, but lasted less than 1 season. The Greatest American Hero survived for 2.
I thought I knew what I was doing because I'd been at Universal as a producer for 8 years and I'd been an efficient producer. The fact of the matter was I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't realize that there was a whole building full of guys that were keeping me out of the rough.
But in a pitch session with this man, Cannell's luck changed for good. NBC Entertainment boss Brandon Tartikoff wanted a series that was a little Mad Max, a little Dirty Dozen, and maybe that guy who was in Rocky III.
I said, you know, I've always wanted to do a series about soldiers of fortune, those guys that advertise in the back of mercenary magazines. Nobody would ever let you do a series about that. Let's do a series about soldiers of fortune.
Within hours, Cannell and co-creator Frank Lupo had created the characters, from Hannibal to Howling Mad Murdoch.
Brandon just kind of looked at me and he goes, that's the show.
In its first season, the A-Team exploded, cracking Nielsen's top 10. Its high concept, macho mood was a perfect match for a nation once again feeling its oats. But with all those explosions came criticism. Watchdog groups slammed the show as too violent.
The critics hated the A-Team, but they hated it for all the wrong reasons. They didn't see the comedy. All they saw was the AR-15s. All they saw was all the gunfire, but they didn't realize that nobody was ever getting killed. Basically a show about pyrotechnics, but not about violence.
You know, it hurts. And I'm sure that Steve was. But you have to say, you know, critic or no critic, this is a popular show. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
We know the A-Team wasn't nominated, but that's okay. We got the ratings, you know. They can have the Emmys, the Tonys, the Oscars, or whatever. Just give me the money.
The A-Team made a lot of money for the cast and for NBC, but not for Cannell. He may have been Hollywood's flavor of the month, but he was losing his shirt.
The curse was we couldn't afford to make the show. It had so many stunts in it. And basically, the news was delivered to me that we would be out of business in 6 months.
Suddenly, it was Cannell's company that might get canceled. It would take pluck and luck to dodge that bullet.
TV Land Moguls will return in just a moment.
After you learn what made the Moguls, see what tonight's Moguls made. Shows by Stephen J. Cannell, Carsey Werner, and Whit Thomas Harris. Tonight, after TV Land Moguls, the 80s, right here on TV Land. TV Land Moguls is brought to you by Nike.
This is my talking dog, Saki.
This is my talking fist. His name is Knockout. Do you want to hear Knockout speak?
No.
With the A-Team, Stephen J. Cannell had a hit, but his company was hitting the wall. It was the price of independence. The A-Team cost a fortune to produce and wouldn't turn a profit for years.
I said, you got to get me a banking deal somewhere.
Cannell convinced a bank to support his studio with a $60 million line of credit. With it, he was back on track and creatively still had the knack. Cannell's company mushroomed into a hit factory, one of the largest suppliers of TV in Hollywood. To be sure, he had competition. Producer Glenn Larson also tuned into the times, turning a Vietnam vet into Magnum P.I., a smash hit for CBS. Larson had simultaneous success with 2 other action adventures, giving Lee Majors' career new life as the Fall Guy and launching David Hasselhoff as Knight Rider. But by 1986, Cannell had 6 shows in prime time and had become the undisputed king of action-adventure. One of them was an unlikely hit. Hunter, a cop show pairing Fred Dreyer and Stephanie Kramer, stumbled from the start.
The show was placed on Friday night opposite Dallas. It wasn't doing well, like 99th out of 98 shows.
Fearing cancellation, Cannell convinced NBC's Tartikoff to watch a 2-hour episode he was especially proud of.
What do you got on a Darby Slash?
Darby Slash, the singer with the sniveling snits?
And he says to me, he says, you know, we work for years to find a show where the actors, where the leads have chemistry and where they're coming across the screen into the room with you. And sometimes we'll go a whole development season and not find it. And here it is, right here.
And that was it. They moved it to Saturday night, gave us 9 shows, brought it to 22, and the rest is history.
Hunter went on to crack the top 20 in a 7-year run on NBC. Still, success was a double-edged sword. The money he made from his hits had to fund new pilots in the pipeline. He had over 1,000 people on the payroll. Cannell had to cut costs. When an associate suggested he look north of the border, Cannell at first had his doubts.
He says, the American dollar is trading at $1.30 up here. I went, what? I said, you mean if I take $1 million US and cash them into Canadian dollars, I'm going to get $1,300,000? They go, yeah. I was gone.
In the late 80s, Cannell became the first producer to open a major studio facility in Vancouver. There he produced his next breakthrough hit, 21 Jump Street. With a young cast and hip scripts, it put the new Fox network on the map and gave teenage girls a new heartthrob in Johnny Depp.
Yes, Mr. Patrice. Terra Nova's seducible.
It was also in Vancouver that Cannell produced a series that silenced even those critics who found his other shows formulaic. Wise Guy.
It was interesting, it was edgy, and I believe that it was taking chances that hadn't been really taken in television at that time.
It starred Ken Wall as an FBI agent so undercover with the mob that at times even he wasn't sure which side he was on.
Wise Guy was the seduction of Vinnie Terranova. Here he is, this $35,000 a year cop, and now all of a sudden he's living in a $1 million apartment. He's hanging out with glitter princes and actresses from Broadway. It's about him fighting to keep his moral compass on due north.
With Wise Guy, Cannell took another gamble, scripting multiple episode story arcs. Some of his storylines took months to resolve.
The quality level throughout the whole town saw this and said, this is really cool. It is pre-Sopranos.
You're a cop, aren't you?
I think that he should be recognized for that.
I'll kill you, Ben! I'll kill you!
Cannell's success continued into the 90s, most notably with The Commish.
Marker.
But by the mid-90s, Cannell was ready to cash in. He sold his production empire for $30 million, later shrewdly buying back the syndication rights to his library. Today, Stephen and Marcia Cannell, his wife of more than 30 years, live in a multi-million-dollar mansion in suburban LA. But a life of luxury does not necessarily mean a life of leisure. After dominating a decade of action-adventure, the man who created more than 36 series and wrote hundreds of scripts is now a novelist, writing one best-selling mystery after another.
There's so much fun in a lot of creative people coming together putting on a show. So there's something about that I kind of miss, but I'm able to look at it and say, this is all me. I just love doing it. I love being a writer.
Next on TV Land Moguls.
I think that there is a curse on this family.
Well, if there isn't, there should be.
Comedy on the cutting edge.
A family weekend, relaxation, quality time with the kids, exercise, getting in touch with nature, joie de vivre.
When you speak French, it really drives me wild.
Oh, did we mention it's an Addams Family Weekend? A 2-day marathon that will blow you away.
My, that sounds attractive.
It's every single episode, back to back. You don't want to miss a thing. The Addams Family Marathon, all weekend, June 5th and 6th.
While Stephen J. Cannell dominated the decade in 80s action-adventure, there were other moguls in the making us laugh. The first, a trio that by 1980 had already brought a new cutting edge to comedy. Susan Harris was a writer, most memorably for the groundbreaking abortion episode of Maude.
Susan could take a blank page and make a kind of magic happen that we responded to.
Harris's future husband, Paul Witt, was a producer who, by age 28, had already won an Emmy for the TV movie Brian's Song. The third member, Tony Thomas, who brought along everything he'd learned from his dad, comedy mogul Danny Thomas. Growing up in a showbiz family, Tony had first taken a turn at acting with a bit role on his sister Marlo's comedy hit, That Girl.
My father, my sister Terry, and myself and Marlo were all in the same episode together, which was fun and exciting. We did the scene, and I was just terrible. And it was on that moment I knew I would never be an actor.
Thomas and Witt met during the production of Brian's Song. By 1975, they had struck out on their own, and with Harris, struck pay dirt with their very first comedy, Soap. The serialized send-up of daytime soaps wove a weekly web of intrigue and infidelity, and featured a stage-trained cast that included a young Billy Crystal in Primetime's first recurring role as a gay character.
I love you.
We had index cards with stories, and we would create the episode.
And we would sit there for hours and hours and hours and break all the stories for the Bible for the first 13 episodes or so. We literally had to stop ourselves from laughing so much and get it down on paper where these characters would go and what they would say.
What Susan has written, it was sort of so open-ended for actors. The sky was the limit. If you could get a laugh, go for it.
But the show sparked controversy weeks before the first episode even aired. It was attacked by a Newsweek critic who had not even seen the pilot.
Newsweek had said that we were dealing with seducing priests and so on, which, by the way, we were.
Only one word I listened to. Goodbye, Kim. Well, that's 2 words.
But they do that all the time in daytime television, and no one ever got upset. So I don't understand why. I always wondered who was getting upset that this was going to be on prime time.
They were preaching sermons on Sundays. Don't watch this show. And the gays were picketing us. So everybody was against this show.
I need your help.
They thought it was just the worst thing that had ever happened in America.
ABC felt that we were stretching the form, but we were doing no harm. To the contrary, we probably opened a lot of doors for a lot of people, both creatively and socially.
Soap became a top 15 hit and also brought into American homes something new, female characters written from a woman's perspective.
I remember when Jessica finds out her husband's cheating on her. She looks over at the table where she sees her husband and his secretary kissing. She was embarrassed for him to see her, because now she'd been made a fool of all those years she never believed he was cheating on her.
I really feel like such a fool, Mary. I mean, all those years of not believing, and I still find it hard to believe.
And when I read that line, I went, oh, boy. A man, or most men I know, would have reacted, I'm going to go out and get that guy. This was from a woman's point of view that somehow she must have failed.
That is Susan Harris. That is Susan Harris at her very, very best. And then in a twist, going back to the treacle cutter that my father was so fond of, we would just go into outright hilarity.
I think that there is a curse on this family.
Well, if there isn't, there should be.
More often than not, it was Benson the butler who got the most laughs.
Look at those depressing pictures, boy.
Played by Robert Guillaume, he also became Soap's survivor, as Thomas borrowed another technique he'd learned from his dad. Benson became a spin-off series, with Guillaume now in the role of a butler who rose to become the state's lieutenant governor.
On many occasions, people feel like telling the boss to go to hell. But of course, they can't say it. So Benson became the guy. You tune in any week, and Benson is giving them what for.
With back-to-back hits, Witt, Thomas, and Harris were on a roll, or so they thought. But the primetime comedy climate was changing.
They were on, but audiences weren't watching them. And what had happened was some hour shows were really doing well. And so what the networks thought, well, the audiences just aren't interested in sitcoms anymore.
It's probably only dead until the next half-hour hit comes along, which we hope will be real soon.
It was another creative comedy team that, in 1984, would prove the networks wrong. Though rookies as show producers, Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner were veterans in the business of television. She got her start as a tour guide at NBC. He was a documentary producer. By the mid-70s, both were programming executives at ABC. Though not writers themselves, they had a knack for selecting scripts that wound up on the ABC lineup, like Stephen Cannell's 10-Speed and Brown Shoe, and Susan Harris's Soap. At ABC, Carsey was Werner's boss, but
he had the balls to say to me what he knew I was disagreeing with, and I had the power to say yes or no to this guy. I just thought, you know what, he may be as crazy as I am, so I think we have to work together.
Some of their colleagues thought they were crazy. Both left their high-paying jobs at ABC, took second mortgages on their homes, and started their own production company. But soon they found themselves in a sit-down with a man who believed, as they did, that there was plenty of room in primetime for a successful sitcom. Bill Cosby was best known for stand-up, though no stranger to TV. With everything on the line, Carsey and Werner made their pitch.
We desperately needed him to say yes. I personally couldn't get my dry cleaning out. I mean, that's the state of financial things. You know, we were betting a lot of money on our own, you know, independence.
Cosby had a condition. The show had to be shot in New York. But Carsey and Werner had no pilot, no script. Worse, they and Cosby couldn't agree on a concept.
Bill wanted to do a show about a limo driver in New York who was married to a Puerto Rican lady. And Tom and Marcy said, no, we want to do your life.
What they came up with was the Huxtable household, a black family unlike any ever seen before on television.
10 years ago, to have a kitchen like this. 10 years ago, to have the father as a doctor and the mother as a lawyer would have been impossible.
Here we go, Dad's bringing scrambled eggs.
2 working parents, 5 kids, and a script that emphasized realistic relationships. On a studio set in Queens, Carsey and Werner taped a 15-minute presentation for NBC to see, and something clicked.
It was a scene where Bill was talking to his son, Theo.
You're a doctor and Mom's a lawyer, and you're both successful in everything, and that's great. But maybe I was born to be a regular person. Maybe you can just accept who I am and love me anyway.
That sounded very much like what half-hour comedies were. Children always knew more than the parents. And then Bill said,
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
And the audience went crazy. They stood up, they applauded, they whooped, they went woo, because they hadn't heard that before. You know, they hadn't heard the parents taking the household back and the parents saying, you know what, I'm right and you're wrong. So at that moment, I think we knew that we had a hit.
The Cosby Show brought comedy back. By its second season, it was #1 and stayed there for the next 3 years. It also led to a successful spin-off when Huxtable's daughter Denise was sent off to college in A Different World. Meanwhile, that other 80s comedy team was about to make its own comeback with a show that once again broke all the rules.
To have a show about 4 older women in Miami didn't sound too appealing.
Tell me the truth, do these glasses make me look stupid?
But oddly enough, we hit the ground running.
There's more laughter in the lineup when TV Land Moguls continues.
After you learn what made the Moguls, see what tonight's Moguls made. Shows by Stephen J. Cannell, Carsey Werner, and Whit Thomas Harris. Tonight, after TV Land Moguls, the 80s, right here on TV Land.
Following the success of The Cosby Show, Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner wondered what to do for an encore. They weren't the only producers adding laughter to the lineup. As the 80s drew to a close, Americans were introduced to new, groundbreaking comedies. Some that spoke to the times, and one of them, timeless.
Now welcome the star of the show, playing Cliff Huxtable, Bill Cosby.
With the success of Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner's Cosby Show, America was laughing again. Meanwhile, the comedy trio that had created soap and Benson was about to bring even more laughter to prime time. The show, The Golden Girls.
Susan sat down and wrote one of the great comedy pilots ever written and ever made.
What Susan Harris wrote attracted an A-list cast fast.
You get so many not sharp, funny scripts mailed to you. The ones you want to, sometimes you think you better take them out and bury them. And all of a sudden, this wonderful script came through.
Morning, Ma. How you feeling?
I'm not sure. What did we have for dinner last night?
Mexican.
Oh, then I'm okay.
With Golden Girls, TV now showed seniors as never before. Smart, sassy, energetic, and very, very funny.
Tell me the truth, do these glasses make me look stupid?
Let's just say they don't hide it.
It's funny because it's real. It's funny because it is about the human condition. It's funny because we can identify with what is happening and what the characters are feeling. And sometimes they feel fear, sometimes they feel alone, sometimes they feel dread. We did some pretty heavy shows.
But always with warmth and humor.
At least Dorothy's pregnancy was an accident. My daughter did it on purpose. Anne went to a sperm bank. A sperm bank. Just the very idea of a bank having sperm.
Around the third or fourth episode, I was watching a run-through with Paul and Susan. And please don't take this wrong, but I said to Paul, this is Lucy. I mean, this has the legs of Lucy. This will never get old.
That's why Golden Girls holds up, because Paul and Susan and Tony had a frame of reference where they would write smart stuff.
Cheesecake, Rose?
Let's taste it and find out.
It didn't necessarily have to be today's joke.
Thank you very much. All of us at Witt Thomas Harris want to thank the Academy very much for this honor.
The show won the Emmy for Outstanding Comedy 2 years in a row and led to a spin-off, Empty Nest. With the girls as its lead-in, it quickly hit the top 10. For Tony Thomas, one episode had special meaning.
Go upstairs and make some calls. Find an apartment. Get a life. Go. I want to talk to him alone.
The last TV appearance by his dad.
I said alone.
Showbiz legend, Danny Thomas.
Half of that soundstage was stage 5 where he shot Make Room for Daddy. So it was very gratifying. It was full circle for me. The timing of that was killer because he passed away shortly after that. So it was a moment in time that I'm very glad to have had with him.
The way we develop shows is that we kind of look at what's not on television and what ought to be. We kind of like start as audience and not as producers.
For their next show, Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner tapped into a new phenomenon of the 80s, working moms.
Roseanne was everything that a woman on television is not supposed to be. She's working class, she's loudmouthed, she's a feminist, and she's overweight. She breaks all of the rules.
There is no point, okay? No point.
And precisely because of the way in which she puts all that together, audiences loved her.
The point is, you think this is a magic kingdom where you just sit up here on your throne.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And you think everything gets done by some wonderful wizard. Oh, poof, the laundry's folded. Poof, dinner's on the table.
You want me to fix dinner? I'll fix dinner. I'm fixing dinner.
Oh, but honey, you just fixed dinner 3 years ago.
Roseanne was another instant hit.
Everybody lies to each other all the time and manipulates, and that, I think that's great because that really hasn't ever been on television before.
But behind the scenes, Carsey and Werner had to deal with Roseanne's constant fights over control, content, and crew, which became frequent fodder for the tabloids. To keep their star happy, Carsey and Werner reluctantly went along as the show switched series producers 3 years in a row.
Celebrity is a very complicated proposition. She came into this situation and out of nowhere became probably the most popular woman in America overnight, and it was difficult.
The stormy set did nothing to hurt Roseanne's popularity. In the 1988-89 season, it helped give Carsey and Werner a television trifecta. Their shows led the Nielsen's 1, 2, 3. They continued to crank out successful sitcoms into the 90s and beyond. Witt, Thomas, and Harris had hits in the 90s too, but for them, juggling several shows at the same time was taking its toll.
When it was just Paul, Susan, and I doing the majority of the work, it was indeed more fun. It was very heady to have all those shows on the air, but it wasn't as much fun for me to be an overseer as it was to be a hands-on producer. From a mom and pop operation to mini studio.
One day, Sheldon Leonard, the 60s showbiz mogul who knew all too well the challenge, spotted them in a restaurant.
He said, 5 shows. He said, I do not know whether to congratulate you or offer you my condolences. And he was right. You give up an awful lot of your life, although it is fun. I think one of the things that people don't realize is the amount of work that goes into making all of television. But particularly comedy, the number of hours that are spent in writing and rewriting, punching up, really build up so that by the end of a season, there's real exhaustion, and by the end of a series run, there's real burnout.
Still, making us laugh has made them rich. Today, Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner are among Forbes' 400 richest people in America, each worth $600 million. She owns homes from Manhattan to Malibu. He is co-owner of the Boston Red Sox. And Tony Thomas? He and showbiz sister Marlo continue to raise funds for the charity founded by their father, St. Jude's.
A lot of people who have money look back and say, boy, the poor years were a lot of fun. The poor years were a lot of fun.
And all can take satisfaction in knowing that, yes, like Lucy, the characters they created will keep us laughing for a long, long time.
I think we're still in 48 countries. We get mail from all over the world, from Finland, Bangladesh. I mean, what they see about 4 old broads in Bangladesh, I don't know. Guess where I'm going?
A sanitarium up north?
They don't write them like that anymore. They just don't.
Next on TV Land Moguls, the man who brought a new dimension to drama, Stephen Bochco.
A honking hypochondriac. A fastidious fuss budget. As Felix Unger, he managed to annoy us and amuse us at the same time. This eloquent entertainer and patron of the opera hit all the right notes as an oddball in an odd couple. A wonderful, serious actor who never took himself too seriously. TV Land remembers Tony.
At the same studio where Stephen Cannell quickly climbed the ladder to success, another young writer-producer was having less luck. In the 1980s, all that would change. By the end of the decade, Stephen Bochco would become a mega mogul in his own right, creating a whole new form of dramatic television and turning his name into a brand name for quality TV.
Stephen has brought thinking man's television, I believe, to network television. He expects something from his audience in return. It's something new and different and novel and, above all, intelligent.
Television, at least the television medium that I grew up in, was primarily cops. You wound up writing those kinds of shows, not so much because you're attracted to them, but because that's what was there.
In his very first job as a writer at Universal, Stephen Bochco helped write a TV cop classic, Columbo.
You musician? No, cop. Cop? Policeman.
Starring a trench coat-clad Peter Falk as a brilliant but bumbling homicide investigator.
C-O-L-U-M-B-O. Me.
I wrote 7 of them. I remember when he won his first Emmy for that show, he thanked me as the only other staff writer on the show at the time. And, you know, he put me on the map.
But when given the chance to produce, Bochco's first 2 series were flops. His career going nowhere, Bochco left Universal and settled at MTM, a writer's paradise, where he quickly made an impression on his boss, Grant Tinker.
Smart ass, which he still is, independent, you know, his own guy, but clearly talented. Mark.
Bochco's contribution to the MTM legacy? A cop show, Hill Street Blues.
Hill Street was this messy, funny, tragic world populated by really flawed men and women trying to keep the lid on a garbage pail that was always threatening to spill over the edges.
It broke new ground in television drama. With its complex characters, gritty camera style, overlapping dialogue, and multiple storylines. It earned 4 Emmys as TV's outstanding drama, and it earned Bochco a reputation for standing up to the network brass.
There was a particular episode that was being filmed. It was called Moon Over Uranus, and NBC said, "You can't name it Moon Over. You can't do that." He says, "Oh yeah." So the next episode was called Moon Over Uranus Part 2.
Soon, though, Bochco's clashes were within MTM. By Hill Street's 5th season, Grant Tinker had left for NBC, and Bochco's second high-budget show, Bay City Blues, had been an expensive flop. MTM fired Bochco in March 1985. Unfazed, he quickly found himself on the lot at Fox, and in a meeting with NBC's Brandon Tartikoff, the same man who coaxed Stephen Cannell into creating the A-Team. Tartikoff loved Hill Street, a show he described as 85% cops, 15% lawyers. What would happen, he wondered, if you flipped those figures?
It seemed to me that I could sort of borrow the form of Hill Street and to go from a gritty urban environment to sunny Southern California to tell stories that could locate, you know, those rich themes that the law suggests.
Bochco wanted the show to have a certain swagger, something he was becoming known for as well. He personally picked a cast to help him hit LA Law out of the park.
The door opens as there's this guy with this baseball bat, and he's swinging the bat. He's just kind of like swinging this bat as the door opens. That's the first visual I get of Stephen Bochco live, is this guy swinging a bat. At least you know if you mess up, what conceivably could happen.
What happened was magic. LA Law became the most popular legal drama since Perry Mason. Though it both mocked and mirrored the materialism of the 80s, LA Law also explored issues rarely raised in primetime drama.
Do you think you could judge my client knowing that he has AIDS-related complex?
I feel sorry for Mr.
LA Law also achieved something Hill Street never had, Nielsen numbers. It frequently cracked the top 10. But Bochco continued to chafe under the rules and regulations of network standards.
Have you been seeing another woman?
No, of course not.
In one famous episode, he sent the network censors scurrying for a sexual handbook to check out one titillating technique.
The Venus
butterfly.
The Venus butterfly was this whole sexual thing that Michael Tucker and Jill Eikenberry character was going through, which was just like a made-up thing, and it just took a life of its own.
I mean, if you're not too, tired, we could maybe do it again.
LA Law, like Hill Street, won the Emmy as television's outstanding drama 4 times. And with that hit, Bochco became the industry's next $10 million man, agreeing to produce shows exclusively for ABC with complete creative control. His first show under his new contract was a hit. Doogie Howser, MD, starred Neil Patrick Harris as a Princeton prodigy, a doctor at 15. With it, Bochco had 3 hits on in prime time, but he had almost as many misses. Most notably, a cop show set to music. Cop Rock bombed within weeks. The show that would cement his reputation came in the early 90s. A cop drama that brought even more realism and controversy to prime time. NYPD Blue was blue in more than name only. The advance press on its groundbreaking use of nudity and language prompted religious conservatives to call for an affiliate boycott. more than a third of all ABC affiliates refused to run the first episode in its 10 p.m. time slot.
Nothing in NYPD Blue in a movie theater would have generated more than a PG-13.
Is this the 100 you offered me in court today? Eat it! Eat it!
But for television, it was really out there. The degree of nudity, breasts and rear ends and stuff. For television, it was really radical.
What's going on, Detective?
Lost in all of the commotion about its bells and whistles was the fact that it was a hugely compelling set of characters.
Make sure he gets home. He's a cop.
And thank God we were an instant hit, because if we had faltered at all, I think we would have been off the network within 3 weeks.
Hey, Mark.
Instead, Blue went on to become the second longest running cop drama in prime time and brought Bochco his 10th Emmy.
I mean, that actually might be an interesting...
Today, Bochco continues to plot the future of Blue, though he's been unable to duplicate its success. Still, backed by a $50 million commitment from Paramount, he continues work on new pilots and remains revered in a town where his celebrity matches those of the actors for whom he has created such unforgettable roles, and where he has already left a legacy few moguls can match.
I can look over the tapestry of the last 15 years. Extraordinary shows, memorable shows, shows that really had an impact on the culture, in spite of the media, certainly not because of it. I always said I made a career out of swimming upstream, but I did rock the boat.
Stephen Bochco has also published his first novel, a crime story called Death by Hollywood. But while they're now turning out books, Cannell and Bochco will always be known for putting their indelible stamp on dramatic television. Next time on TV Land Moguls, the producers who took television into a new decade and a new century. From Dick Wolf to Worldwide Pants, and from the glitter of Beverly Hills to the violence of the Jersey mob. I'm Merv Griffin. Thank you for joining us.
Have you sailed with us before?
Right. Welcome. Smiles, everyone. Smile.
Take me.
Take me.
Take me.
Take me.
David's the man, you know? He's Oz.
In a perfect world, Vic like 7 different Law and Orders, and it could happen.
By the year 2009, we will have actually every show on television.
He's the most accessible mogul that you'll ever know.
When they started reading me the ratings, I said, oh,